All right, what's going on? It's Bobby Skinner talking Giants. Now, I'm not doing a weekly offensive line report this week. I want to talk about the season as a whole, and I want to talk about the guys who are a part of this team going forward, right? Like, we have to have some serious talks about Evan Neal, even though we haven't seen him in a while. John Michael Schmitz, who we'll talk about, I feel like he's regressed as the season went along. Tyree Phillips, even though he had the injury, what happened with him? Ben Bredeson, Josh Ezeudu, what happened with these guys? And I want to start with positive, though, because there's a lot of negative with this season. I think this is the worst offensive line performance since I've been doing the offensive line reviews since 2020. I really do. I think the running game was almost as equally as bad as the pass blocking. The pass blocking was really bad. Your one bright spot is Andrew Thomas, but he was injured for a lot. So we will start with the one bright spot, which is Andrew Thomas. Got the 5-year, $117.5 million contract with $67 million fully guaranteed in camp, locking him up with the Giants for 2029. I mean, he's been their best player over the last three years, and the only player that you can argue that is better right now is Dexter Lawrence. Like, I don't think the Saquon Barkleys or anybody else are anywhere close to those two on the team. Suffered the hamstring injury on the first drive of the game, chasing after a field goal. That caused him to miss 7 games. He played into the fourth quarter of the game with that, which is maddening to a player that you just locked up through 2029. You left him in for a blowout game, and that injury had to get worse. He missed 7 games due to that injury. Then he comes back, and the second Cowboys game, Week 10, he suffered an MCL sprain. He hasn't missed a snap since re-entering that game, and he's been playing with an MCL sprain that's been reported. I really think this guy is the difference of an efficient offense and a just horrible bad offense, which we've seen at times. And Daniel Jones, whether you have your opinion, everyone has their opinions on him. I've been saying it since 2021. I remember coming after that Saints victory and saying Andrew Thomas is the most important thing to Daniel Jones' success, right? And the numbers back that up. With Andrew Thomas, he has 106, or with Andrew Thomas, he has 209.5 yards per game. Without, 162 yards per game. 8 interceptions without Andrew Thomas, a 3% rate. Less than half of that with Andrew Thomas. His sack rate is 10.6% without Andrew Thomas, only 7.2% with him. Like, those are huge differences in numbers, and the touchdown rates are higher. The only thing that's higher is the yards or the completion percentage without Andrew Thomas. The yards per attempt, even with that, are higher when you have Thomas. The MCL sprain that he's been dealing with has hurt his play this year, despite the fact that he still is an elite pass protector in 2023. He's just had some single plays where he's been solid but not totally dominant, and that has led to sacks or quarterback hits and pressures allowed. And in the run game, he's not been able to push off in the run, and he's been able to sustain but not really drive or torque defenders, which we've seen him do. Like, he's been a huge part of their run success in the past, and when he's not working, neither is the rest of the group in its struggles. But as far as a pass blocker, this year he gave up 4 sacks, 1 hit, and 12 pressures, and 333 snaps. In 2022, he had 700 pass blocking snaps, so over double. He gave up the same amount of sacks, only 2 more hits, and only 4 more pressures, right? And the efficiency numbers, he was 26 for all of tackles in 2023, and 2022 and 21, he was 8th and 6th. But even with the injury, he's just so damn quick. And he really kills the will of pass rushers when they have no speed advantage. Like, the pass rushers do not have a speed advantage versus him as an offensive tackle. He doesn't need to get the early jumps that a lot of tackles like Lane Johnson live off of, right? And they rarely have a strength advantage of him. His technique of showing and taking away hands, but with effective punches using his independent hands, is just so hard for rushers. Like, rushers attack the punch, and with Thomas, it takes away what their plan is. Because when he shows you a punch, he's pulling it away from you. He's using that circle technique to get you to go and try and chop at his arms, then pulls them, and then lands a good punch after that. Right? So it's just hard to do. And then when you do try and bull rush him, he's got the strength to anchor down. He's got a quick punch to, once that blow's been landed, he can get good hand placement. And from the starter reps, like, those first 2 steps are so quick, and the third step is a read step. It just eliminates any way of him oversetting or undersetting, right? And there's no, rushers are sometimes looking for a 2-way go. He basically only allows the way to go through him is through him. Now, he's had some reps where guys have gotten around the corner, but none of those have been quick. I also think, like, we take for granted, like the fact that he has played some not only just not good left guard play, but consistently new players next to him, right? And he's been able to pick up stunts and help other guys out. He's played with Justin Pugh, Ben Bredeson, Josh Ezeudu, Nick Gates, Jack Anderson, Matt Skura, Wes Martin, Shane Lemieux, and Will Hernandez since he entered the league. Like, that's a lot of left guards to have him to deal with. And, I mean, who was the best performing out of those? You know, Ben Bredeson in 2022, you know, Will Hernandez in 2019 when, you know, that's when Andrew Thomas was struggling, right? So since he's been good, the best guy he's probably got next to him was Ben Bredeson and Nick Gates, who they were and even then they were rotating those two guys last year. So to me, he is a blessing to any quarterback that gets to play under center for the Giants. The numbers show that, and I think that if the Giants do go and get a quarterback and they want to create more explosives, that's going to be huge for him. Like, he's going to be a huge piece for him the way he's been a huge piece for Daniel Jones, that you're essentially never going to have to worry about your blind side. Like, you'll never have a quick loss on your blind side left tackle with him there. It's just not going to happen. And if he does have a loss, it is far and few between, and it will not affect the next play with him. So, man, it's been a joy to watch him this year, even though it hasn't been as good in previous years because of the injury. And the thing with me is, if he is able to just stay healthy, he is a future Giants Ring of Honor member. And if they get to the damn Super Bowl, there's so much more that is in play for this guy. It's been a pleasure to watch him. And I'm excited to continue to watch him next year. He's my favorite player to watch on the New York Giants. And so I wanted to spend some time on him before we get into the negative. So Andrew Thomas, man, it's been fun to watch him develop and become a star, to be one of the best damn left tackles in the NFL. And he's just getting started with his career. All right, let's talk about Evan Neal. This season went about as bad as it could for Evan Neal, or for a second-year top 10 pick. First, let's start with the missed games. You know, he missed 2 games with a sprained ankle. Then he fractured an ankle and will miss the final 8 games. So he's going to end up missing 14 of the 34 games he was available for in his first 2 seasons in the NFL. And he was bad, really bad, right? Not as bad as his rookie year, but that was a very low bar to clear, about as low as bar you can get in the NFL. We know the story. Drafted 7th overall to have bookend tackles, and it's been anything but that. You know, as a rookie, he had the second worst pass blocking efficiency in the NFL with 8 sacks allowed, 10 quarterback hits, and 34 pressures. He struggled with speed, footwork, his punch, bad balance, and just the mental part of the game. In 2023, even though I do think there was some improvements, his numbers didn't improve. 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and 23 pressures. He was 5th worst in the NFL for tackles and pass blocking efficiency with guys with 300 pass blocking snaps. And he did improve in some areas, but that's the worrisome part, is like he did work and improve in areas, yet still nowhere near up to snuff to be even a solid starting tackle in the NFL. Like, he did get better at the beginning of the snap to me. Like, he struggled to get off the ball. Now he was getting off the snap quick, getting to his first and second steps very quickly. I thought his contact balance improved a decent amount. Especially once connected, he can control blocks, but he also lost that first punch. He's still struggling with the speed of the game. That's the main thing. He is struggling with the speed of the NFL game and getting to that third step, reading what players are doing. And his punch is still very high. It often mistimes it. He uses that two-handed punch, which, again, is a Bobby Johnson thing, which I really think he could benefit from new offensive line coaching and learning to use some of that stuff. But where I worry is just the lack of, having the speed of the game. The ability to mirror is lacking. And there still is bad balance that shows up. In the run game, there's footwork issues where he's just kind of a bad run blocker unless he's working in combos and able to use his size on guys. He consistently makes mental errors, too, that have costed the Giants games and points, right? And we rightfully so get on Tyrod Taylor for the end of the half versus Buffalo. But if Evan Neal just doesn't totally block the wrong person, that probably ends up being a touchdown and the Giants win that game. And he's not only just making mental mistakes, he plays with no confidence in his ability. There's been times where his first 2 steps are good, and it's like, just do the third step. Don't open your hip. If you guys have been watching this, don't open your hip to give these guys a easier arc to the quarterback, and he just opens it up. So, unfortunately, I don't have much hope for Evan Neal going forward, to especially at least no hope really to become what I expected him to get to. Now, I do think there is a path for him to become an average to an above to average tackle, becoming better with the hands, trusting your feet a little more, even though, you're not going to have that elite NFL athleticism that Andrew Thomas has. And guys just don't just get better because they last in the league longer. I know there's a lot of comps out there to Andrew Thomas. I don't want to hear any of that. What Andrew Thomas was from his rookie year, the Bucs game on, is better than anything we've ever seen out of Evan Neal. And even in that rookie year, we saw a lot of good run film out of Andrew Thomas. You saw the athleticism. It was mental errors. It was, technique errors. Where with Neal, you see a lot of the technique errors, but there's physicality and speed issues too. So Giants have to have a plan. They cannot just go into this next year with him as the clear starter right tackle. There has to be a plan. But you also can't just totally throw away this investment too. There has to be an investment to get him better with offensive line coaching. Before we get into John Michael Schmitz, the NFL playoffs are approaching, and we've teamed up with DraftKings, an official partner of the NFL, to get you closer to the action. Right now, new customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, not to worry, you can still join in all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code WORLD. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code WORLD only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You'll be glad you did. All right, the last one that we're going to talk about for a good amount of time is John Michael Schmitz, the second-round pick, 57th overall. As you guys know, I was a big advocate of this draft pick. I really like him, and I didn't think he was a first-round talent, but I didn't think he would fall to 57. So I was thrilled that he was there, and the Giants were able to take him. This was a disappointing rookie season, but to me, it's different than, he's just not an NFL player type disappointing, right? It's disappointing because you saw some really good things from John Michael Schmitz, but the results at the end of the day were not very good. He gave up 5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, and 23 pressures. For reference, John Feliciano, who I don't think anyone thought had a great 2022, he had 4 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 18 pressures, and that was in more pass blocking snaps. He had the fourth most allowed, sacks, pressures, and hits for centers in 2023, and he had the worst pass blocking efficiency out of 32 centers that qualified. And what really bothers me, and I know this is a huge talking point with the offensive line coach Bobby Johnson, is to me there was regression in his game. All of his worst games came towards the end of the year, and you'd say, well, was that because of the competition? I don't believe so. I thought it was versus guys like Fedarian Mathis, versus Kobe Turner, who, hey, good rookie, but at the end of the day, he's a rookie, and JMS played a lot better defensive tackles than Kobe Turner. He started out the season playing so aggressive in his pass sets. He had an aggressive punch, getting hands on guys, right? Like, he had his losses to Micah Parsons and Javon Hargraves. He's never the most athletic center, but he's kept plenty capable of the spot. But you saw, really good technique. He had good hand fight, good replacement, right? Was able to stay connected to blocks. He would lose some battles, like I said, but he didn't look overwhelmed. His command of the protections was A1, made 0 mistakes in his blitz pickups and called stuff out for other guys. I mean, Marcus McKethan definitely made his fair share of mistakes. He would have made, twice as much if John Michael Schmitz wasn't in there for him. But then the last, handful of games of the season, he just kind of regressed and started doing stuff that you didn't even see him do at Minnesota, right? Like, he was not setting to the full man, so he was, guys were getting to his shoulder, right? And he wasn't working his hands the way he was. His pass sets were more passive. He gave up a sack, a hit, and 6 pressures versus the Rams, like his worst results of the season by far. He was screwing up stunts by getting too aggressive or not aggressive enough, right? Which in the beginning of the season, there was 0 times when JMS messed up stunts. Now, he did get hurt in week 4 on the first play of the game and then got a little more injured on the tush push on the same drive. But I don't know how much that messed with him, right? In the run game, though, you do see really good reps. Like, you see a good run blocker, right? He gets movement on his first pop. He works combos very well, whichever way they're doing them. Whether it's like he's setting someone up to go and hammer them, or if he's the one that's hammering them and getting them to jump gaps, or just getting push on guys and working that to the second level. I think he'd benefit a lot from having some stronger guards next to him. Specifically, Justin Pugh had a lack of play strength that kind of put them behind in some run plays. Now he's not the most athletic for the wide zone, right? So if he didn't get great hat placement to start the rep on some of those, he would lose them. And I don't think his guards did him any favors. But when you got him out in pin and pull situations, he was able to go out there and make plays. So this is not an Evan Neal situation to me where you're just hoping he becomes good, right? Like coming away from Evan Neal's rookie season last year, it's like, this is really bad. And yeah, you can say, hey, it's a rookie year, guys grow, but he really showed no signs of good NFL play. John Michael Schmitz he has some good film, right? You're seeing, as you watch this reel of plays, you're seeing a lot of bad plays, but you see a lot of really good plays too. So I do have faith that JMS will improve. And again, I keep on banging on this, but I think replacing an offensive line coach would do this whole line a lot of benefit and getting some better guards next to him. But I've seen enough good things on film that gives you good reason to think that he will figure it out. But at the same time, the knocks on him, you did see, right? He's not the most athletic guy in the world, so he's not going to be amazing working side to side, which means you got to start those reps really well. And if he's losing the physicality battle versus the strongest defensive tackles in the NFL, the better guys, well, the athleticism is not going to make up for it, right? So you can only, work hands and getting guys' chests. But you see, good leverage. He understands the center position. But what frustrates me is I truly did see regression in his game with his technique, with the way he played in pass protection. So hopefully that can get fixed. You look at others, rookie centers, sometimes they struggle and sometimes they're great. Tyler Linderbaum didn't have an amazing rookie season. Creed Humphrey came out of the gates, running. So we'll see. There's definitely a good amount of hope there, but it was a very disappointing rookie season for JMS for me. All right, these next ones I want to go quick, not spend a crazy amount of time. Ben Bredeson, he'll be 26 next year, was a 2024 round pick by the Ravens and came over in a pick swap before the 2021 season. Finally just had a healthy season after a bunch of injuries the last 2 years. He did miss a game for a concussion in the Cardinals game, but I thought he really improved in 2022. I thought he was up for most improved, had top 20 efficiency numbers for guards last year, but struggled a bit this year. I think he's been a victim of his own versatility. He started the season well at left guard, then moved to center after that concussion and JMS's injury. Struggled there, played well in his fourth game at that spot. Then they put him back at left guard, and then once Thomas came back, they put Pugh at left guard, and then he finished the season at right guard where he was up and down. I think he, again, is a victim of his own versatility. I think he needs to be a priority to come back in 2024's depth. But find a backup center and let Bredeson focus on guard. He's shown good guard film in the NFL, or at least not good, but solid pass protection, can be solid in the run game. I think he should be a priority as depth and get a backup center, because he was center number one the first day of camp as they kind of kept on the charade that it was a position battle. Let him work at left guard and right guard. Let him be a backup. Or your second starter, but he would be a priority to bring back for me. Despite that, there's really no fanfare for Ben Bredeson. With Tyree Phillips, it's going to be really interesting to see what the Giants do with him. Another draft pick by the Ravens, a third rounder cut and then claimed by the Giants in 2022. He was set to be the swing tackle, was working at guard, had a horrible camp. We were there. It was really bad. And Matt Parrott was actually outperforming him, and then he was cut. Eagles put him on the practice squad, and he came back to the Giants a new player after 6 weeks with them. His athletic limitation, he has athletic limitations, but his footwork and most notably his hands were really, really improved, which is an indictment on this coaching staff. The run blocking leaves a lot to be desired, doesn't play with lower body strength and not able to drive and torque players out, and a little head heavy, so guys slide off of him. Torn quad, but should at least battle for a roster spot, but that injury makes it a little more difficult. His efficiency numbers for pass blocking, he was 36, Evan Neal was 74, so there was a noticeable gap in those two players. Just the torn quad makes it tough. The Giants have to go out and get another swing tackle to compete with Evan Neal, and it can't be Tyree Phillips, even though I think he should be at least on the team battling for a roster spot, hopefully by training camp. Let's finish off with some rapid fire. Josh Ezeudu, the early third-round pick out of UNC from 2022. We don't know what happened this year. The injury happened. He played left tackle. He obviously had the feet for it, but he's just not a left tackle in the NFL. They begged him to win the guard spot in camp. he could be a candidate for a surprise cut if he doesn't come back well versus injury and he doesn't make improvements at guards. But this is kind of a lost season for him. Justin Pugh, admirable of him to come back. His technique is good. He did have some good moments early on, but he just, to me, doesn't have the play strength anymore to really last, right? It really gave him issues in the run game, and he had a lot of bad pass protection moments. You can bring him back as depth, but I don't know if either side really wants to sign up for that, especially from Pugh. Glowinski got benched, then came back, and he's been back on the bench and being used as a fullback. Pretty disappointment. The week 1 game was really bad. You can argue that he should start over Pugh, but he's going to be a free agency cut, right? He's going to save some cap space. And then Marcus McKethan. I don't understand why there was any excitement about him. For some reason, after that Arizona game, that film to me was really bad. He's some of the worst film we've seen to me for the Giants offensive line in some time, which is remarkable. Really no good football instincts, and his IQ of picking up blitzes, stunts was some of the worst I've seen, and just the athleticism isn't really there, even though he is big and strong coming off the injury. Come into camp, hopefully he can get better, but there was really nothing on film that signaled like a player who's going to become something or even like a good backup. So hope you guys enjoyed this. This video is this lasts for the whole season, right? You guys can share this with your friends if you ask about the Giants offensive line. Hopefully that there's new players here and there's a new offensive line coach to improve these guys, right? I hate putting so much on a position coach. At the end of the day, this game is about the players and how the players improve. But we've seen with this position that coaching truly matters, right? I don't think if Mark Colombo's not fired or Joe Judge doesn't step in, Andrew Thomas's rookie season to me is a lot different. So hopefully we can get Evan Neal and John Michael Schmitz up to at least par with some new coaching, but we'll see what happens. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting the offensive line reports all year, even though they've probably been painful watching experience with the Giants offensive line. It's been a really bad year for this group, and the one bright spot was injured for 7 of those weeks. So appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting all year long. We're going to have a lot of draft film breakdowns on the offensive line, and hopefully we land some of those guys with the New York Giants. Appreciate you guys. Until then, let's go Big